Atlanta Track Club is an apolitical, nonpartisan nonprofit. We have typically not involved ourselves or spoken out on political issues that don't align with our mission. That all changed last year with the murder of Ahmaud Arbery, who was killed while he was running. We believe that this sport should be universally accessible, and due to systemic racism for many, that's not the case. To root that out, to be part of the solution, Running City USA has to start having conversations and speak up. That's why we're here having this Common Ground initiative. And today I'm joined by Doug Phillips from Back on My Feet. And we're wearing masks. It is February 2021. We are still very much in a pandemic. But Doug, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Jay.
Tell me a little bit about what Common Ground means to you when you hear that term. Let's talk about you first. Tell me about your journey as a runner and how running became part of your life.
So I come from a family that believes in health and fitness, but it never stuck with me. And I don't think running ever stuck until I joined Back on My Feet. So I joined Back on My Feet in December 2018, and it's been on ever since. Started off with my 2-mile routes, my 3-mile routes, and eventually went through the whole cascade of the Atlanta Track Club's Ultimate Peach. So I went through all of those stages and culminating at a half marathon. This is from somebody who never did any real running before.
What was the spark? What was it in 2018 that made you want to get out there? I mean, there had to be something that pushed you to put on those shoes.
I joined Back on My Feet. Mm-hmm. You know, I was a member at Gateway, and I was introduced to the program through a friend, mutual friend, Evander, sweet Evander, and it's been going on ever since.
For folks who don't know, tell us a little bit about what Back on My Feet is and what they do in the community here in Atlanta and across the country.
Back on My Feet is a national nonprofit organization that utilizes running, employment resources, housing resources, and of course community to help persons that might be experiencing homelessness, substance use disorders, things like that, to help them become more sustainable in their transition out of their facilities.
So if you're joining Back on My Feet in 2018, obviously you'd had some hardships in your life.
Yes.
You experienced homelessness. I know you had battled with addiction. How did Back on My Feet help you on your path to recovery?
So one of the biggest things with forming new habits is putting yourself around positive people, and I think that was one of the biggest things. Also, those small steps and achievements that you realize while out running, coming out, running and stopping and then completing a 2-mile route. I think also the support of the community. I think the staff at Back on My Feet were phenomenal in my transformation, as well as other parts of my network. You know, so Georgia Works, so my home group, things like that were very important to building that confidence and that commitment to a better life.
And you not only progressed from 2 miles to a half marathon, you went from being a member to an intern to being a staffer here.
Yeah. Let me correct you, Jay. It was actually a full marathon.
Okay. Oh, that's right. You said Ultimate Peach. So
I was an Ultimate Peach.
During that journey, at any point were you like, you know what, maybe 10 miles is enough? How did you keep progressing yourself to the next distance?
I think persons, the alums that I grew to have relationships with. I think the volunteers, persons that were training for those races, persons that had achieved those milestones, and it just became a part of it. You know, we meet on Saturdays to train for these races, and so you would see everyone going, "Hey Doug, come run 12 miles," and then it's, "Hey, come run 13," and it just kept getting larger and larger, and so it just became a part of it.
So back to your role here. Now you work here.
Yes.
Tell us about what you do here every day.
So I work on the program side of Back on My Feet, where we just work with the members from inception to alumni. So it's basically going through orientation, going through the member packets, following through their next steps, including myself in the runs in the morning, helping with resumes, goal plans, things like that as they move through, helping them remove some of the barriers that they might be experiencing, such as getting their license back, things like that.
How challenging is that job?
I think it's rewarding, but a lot of times you might take on, the feelings of the person. And so if you have a lot of negative interactions, it might be compounded, and so it might take a toll after a while.
Obviously, Back on My Feet is about inclusivity. Can you talk about the makeup of a typical group run? What are the stories? What are the demographics that we're seeing there on a typical Saturday morning?
A typical Saturday morning, it would include, of course, our volunteers. It would include alumni coming back. It would include some of our current members. And it would also include family and friends, and some dogs as well. So pets are included in our community.
Yeah, and I think you touched on it there, the community part of it. Like, is this something you could have done, you or anybody else in the program, training for a marathon, training for a half marathon, without 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people around you running every a couple times a week? Is this something you could have done on your own?
I really don't think so. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's possible. So like I said previously, started running with my family, trying to run on my own, never really, I think, passed half a mile consistently. And so being a part of this community really impacted going further and going the distance and gaining that confidence and strength to move forward.
So we're here for the Common Ground Initiative. What does Common Ground, that phrase, what does that mean to you?
It's just a level playing field where persons can come. It's like a physical and a mental space where persons can come and just be themselves on an equal footing. And I think I liken it to the pavement that we run on, the circle that we're in, where the labels are removed. If you're a judge, when you come into the circle, you're just a volunteer. If you're experiencing homeless and you come into the circle, you're just a person. So it's just that place where persons can come stripped of all of that excess baggage, just to be themselves.
How do you make that happen? Because it's hard. Even when you try, I think, to strip away identifiers. What's the conversation like with a volunteer, with a member, to ensure that circle is a safe, inclusive space?
I think it's just a special energy that we have. I think it's more of a learned trait or hard. It's like a spiritual thing in nature that just encompasses our community once we come out together. I think I was talking to Heather, and it might be the lighting in the morning, I guess the masks now, that persons don't really have
everybody's a runner. I mean,
everyone does not come out there as a runner initially. We have walkers now, we have runners. So a lot of persons have to be eased into that. So like I said, the labels are removed where I'm not a runner. I'm just a part of a community that pushes me forward.
Have you experienced within the group any conflict along those lines? And if so, how did you guys sort of move past that?
I have not seen any conflict, to tell you the truth. I cannot think of, when I think about conflict within our community, within our running community, within our different facilities, in terms of Back on My Feet, I can't think of any.
So we've talked about the transformation that a runner has, a member of Back on My Feet has, once they start going through the program and bring running into their lives. But I imagine that you see a transformation in the volunteers as well. How does being part of this change the people who come out and help out?
So I think everyone who comes out has their own interests in why they come out, whether it's, oh, I want to help, and I want to volunteer, I want to do something for homelessness, I want to do something to impact my community. And I think one of the biggest transformations is that it's actually a two-way street, where as much as I give, I also get back. And volunteers might come in timid at first, but then they come to be more like family in a sense, where everyone is just moving towards a common goal of seeing a member come out, not knowing about running, learning these things, and just getting better in themselves. And so I think that transformation in the volunteers is seen in a way of increased understanding that we're all in this together.
I imagine as someone who's experienced some of those things, you have also experienced the bias and the prejudices that people hold against people who are addicts or people who are experiencing homelessness. How do you strip that away from people? How do you I guess, how do you fix that?
I can't. I can only start with myself. And that's one of the things that being in recovery allows me to focus on my side of the street. If someone else's part of the street is dirty, that's on them to fix. So I have to continue to live in a place of acceptance and understanding and empathy, because in some shape or form, we all have certain biases that we live by. And so if I focus on mine instead of another person's, I think the world will be a better place.
Yeah. What misconceptions do you think people have about Back on My Feet itself?
It's hard to place yourself in another person's warped mind. But if I was to try, I would think that because we combat homelessness, and persons might place that stigma of homelessness on our runners, a picture of a vagabond or someone that always has a paper bag in their hand, or slept on the concrete or cardboard boxes, and so transfer those images to now a person who is running. And I think they stick with that image. And our members are persons that have experienced so many different interactions in their life where everyone wasn't on the sidewalk. Some persons were sleeping in their car. Some persons just got on hard times, or they moved from a different state. Or so that misconception of homelessness, I think just transfers into our runners.
Walk me through a Saturday morning with Back on My Feet. I volunteered. It's been a couple of years. I need to come back, but so I've been to the runs. It's a really unique vibe because it's not just a run. Can you take me through a typical group run?
So Saturdays are real special, where all of our teams meet. And so we currently have 4 teams in Atlanta, so the circle is quite large on Saturdays. We also have a large alumni group, and the persons who have been through the program, they've become employed, they've become housed, still come back for that sense of community and that sense of family. So we start a little later. So normally we start at 5:30 in the morning or 5:45 during the week. Weekends, you get to sleep in a little bit later. So 7:30 morning, you come in, large circle.
Rain or shine.
Rain or shine. The only thing we don't run in is inclement weather. Right. So lightning, snow, ice, things like that. But everything else, we come out and we run. we warm up. We say the Serenity Prayer for those persons who are in recovery, and we start our routes. And so normally during the week it's 2-mile routes, 3-mile routes. On the weekend, we go as long as we're training for that week. So last week, the longest route was 8 miles.
So you mentioned people who have gone through the program, alumni coming back. How important was it for you when you were a member, and now for the members now, and the roles are sort of reversed, to see where this program can lead to?
I think that showing that this program does work is real important. A very important person in my life, George, he was an alumni at the time when I joined, and he took me under his wing. And so he shows me that now that it's my time as an alumni, that I need to bring somebody else under my wing. And so just showing me that I can get through these tough times is very important. Just mimicking what they do until it becomes a part of me.
Is running, I imagine I know the answer to this, but is running ever not enough, and how do you overcome that?
Is running never enough?
Ever not enough? Is it? I imagine that it's a challenge every day in recovery. Mm-hmm. How do you overcome the times when running is not enough?
I think that's when my network comes into play, and I have a very intense or extensive network where it's my running community. It's the volunteers, it's the alum, it's the members, it's the NA community. So when running is not enough, I reach out to somebody. I talk to someone. I put a name to my feelings, and so that I can really understand what's going on. So community is very important in my life.
And you're that person for somebody else, I imagine.
Of course.
Lots of other people. Is there ever, because we're in this iteration of Common Ground, we're really focusing on issues around race. Is race ever a topic? Is it ever something you talk about in the running groups?
Inside of the running groups, I think when the social unrest first started, it was a conversation. Persons wanting to go and demonstrate, other persons saying that they're not going to go to that level. But in terms of just experiencing every day, talking about race, it's never really a point of conversation. Because once again, that circle, those labels of black or white are just not there.
The after the murder of Ahmaud Arbery, it was clear to us what had been clear to a lot of people for a very long time, that running as a person of color in the morning or even in the daylight is not the same as running as a white person. Is that a conversation that you've had with members of Back on My Feet, non-white members of Back on My Feet, and did that feel more intense after Ahmaud's murder?
Yeah, I really can't speak on that. Being a person of color and running, I think I become numb to a lot of things that's going on. That it becomes like it's just another day. And so when these things happen, it's just another day in America. And so it doesn't become something that I bring up, and I can't recall a member really bringing it up to me as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How did you feel after that happened? I mean, I know you said numb, but that day when that came out.
Can I be honest, Jay?
Yeah, I want you to.
It was not as big of an impact to me as a lot of other persons. Like I shared before, man, as a black man in America, you become numb to a lot of these things. It becomes a way of life, like, hey, another person died, you know. And I think media or society finds something now to focus on, and right now is social justice. This has been
you think
going
this is you're worried that this could just be another passing fad?
I'm not worried that it would be just another passing fad. I would like to see the actions, you know. That's just where I am with it.
What can a club like Atlanta Track Club and the broader running community do to take action?
Continue to do things like they're doing now. What is it? Open road, open mind, common ground. Things like these initiatives will bring persons to even think about it. You know, it allows me to think about it now. Just having these conversations now, like, where am I in this whole racial divide? Why am I numb? What more can I do? And so for persons who might be watching this or listening to this, those conversations might be sparked as well, which is needed.
Do you think a lot of people are numb? I mean, I imagine you're not alone.
I do believe so. I do believe so.
What is your I mean, not before the movement restarted and now, is the Atlanta running community an inclusive place?
I have not seen any barriers. I have not seen any divides. Maybe locations are spread out where you might be predominantly white or predominantly black, but that road where they merge, I think, is inclusive. But everyone has their own pocket. But when we do come together, like the Peachtree Road Race or Thanksgiving Half Marathon, I don't see a divide then.
Someone watching right now who's contemplating volunteering is back on my feet, getting involved. How do you get them to take that step?
How do I get them to take that
step?
Yeah,
what do you say to them to get them to come out and be part of this?
Come experience the change in a member's life, in their life. Just be a part of this community and be a part of change. And it all starts with me, and it all starts with them. So they have to put that one foot forward and come out and run with us. Okay,
last question for you. Running is obviously a huge part of your life. What are you training for now? What are you getting ready for? And if you're not training for anything, what role is running playing in your life for you at this point?
So COVID-19 put a little damper in my training. I really wanted to do the Publix full this year again, but my training dropped. So I'm training right now for the Publix half.
Awesome. It's a fun course. It'll be less hilly than it has been in years past.
Yeah.
Doug, thanks so much for talking to us.
Thank you.
And thanks for the conversation.